Okay, so let's recap Jonathan Haidt's work on moral foundations. He argues that liberals and conservatives and other political groups in society have different moral worldviews, and he measures these worldviews using those survey instruments. And he's done this, and his colleagues have done this for many thousands of individuals, and they find different patterns for the different political groups in society. And this is what he thinks is at the root of many of our political disagreements, is that we have different moral worldviews. Today, he identifies 6 foundations, and they're listed here. And how thick the bar is would be a measure of how much that group really thinks that that dimension is a matter of morality. So for a thick bar, say for liberals here, that means that harm and care issues really trigger liberals to make right and wrong judgments. For libertarians, it's any detection of somebody being dominant over you, taking away your liberty, oppressing you. For libertarians, that really cranks up the desire to make right and wrong judgments. Notice for conservatives, there's a fairly consistent pattern across all 6 dimensions. Haidt would say that conservatives have a rich moral matrix, right? All of these dimensions are morally relevant for conservatives. And he suggests that this is one of the great conservative insights, that cooperation in society is really hard to generate and hard to maintain. Cooperation is fragile, sort of it's precarious, you might say, kind of like manhood. But consequently, you really sort of need all the moral dimensions to keep society going in a cooperative way. Now that raises sort of interesting questions, though. Why is it that conservatives show greater endorsement of these 3 domains compared to libertarians and liberals? There's a notable difference there. So if we just focus on these 3 for now, let's take the loyalty dimension. So for conservatives, sort of in-group loyalty is an important consideration when making judgments about right and wrong. But for liberals, this can verge on racism, for example. If your in-group is the white dominant group and the out-group is a minority group, then in-group loyalty has the potential to sort of transform into racism. Authority. Well, take an example of a group in society, say the police, as an institution of authority in society. That we ought to be hold police in esteem and so on. Well, for liberals, police can step outside the bounds, and they can be oppressive on communities, and we see this in Ferguson today. The concern in many minority communities about the way police the community. Or take the relations between gender. Historically, males have been in a position of power in society, right? So when feminism comes along, that would be a challenge to the authority. And again, conservatives think that it is proper to endorse certain hierarchies in society, right? That helps society function. Liberals are more likely to see some of those hierarchical structures as oppressive. Take the purity or the sanctity domain. So for conservatives, again, the body is sort of a temple, and there are certain ways, traditional ways of understanding proper sexual relations, for example. So for conservatives, taking drugs or alternate sexual lifestyles is inappropriate, right? So they're going to make moral judgments about that. For liberals, again, that can be seen as oppressive. Now, if we look at the libertarians, we notice that they too also do not endorse those 3 channels, but neither do they endorse, as much as the liberals, the harm and care. It's as if the empathy system is sort of dialed down here. So less concern about the harm and care issues, whereas liberals, people who are suffering or in need of care, that really cranks up judgments of right and wrong, not so much for the libertarian. The principal dimension for libertarians is the liberty oppression. And Haidt argues, if we think back from an evolutionary point of view, in our ancestral conditions in the hunter-gatherers, that recall that leaders who were selfish or bullies would have faced counter-dominance. And so he argues that we have very sensitive psychologies to other individuals or institutions oppressing us, and libertarians have this dimension sort of cranked up.